So you just bought your new home and you're ready to make it your dream home. I'm going to walk you through in this video some renovations to do and to stay away from so you are truly happy and you know you made the right investment in your house that will stand the test of time. You're going to hear me talk about ROI. It's a word I use often, return on investment. Not everything is dollars and cents. There is a return on investment on your quality of life, of things you truly love. And it is okay to spend some stuff on yourself. But I don't want you to get pigeonholed into a bad spot. You spend a bunch of money, you end up not living in the house for a long period of time. And not only is it not a positive when you go to sell that house, it becomes a negative. So let's jump in and talk about renovation regrets and truly smart renovations. So many times people buy a home, they're super excited, and they want to customize and make it their own, only to later regret some high-cost decisions they made and items they're not going to get an ROI on, and they might be tearing out at some point in the future. Many of these things are very costly, and they're made spur of the moment, and they don't stand the test of time. Something that's right now might not be right in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Maybe when you sell the house, or maybe when you just aren't using it and becomes a maintenance nightmare. The reason why I share that with you is I want to share some of these big upgrades and really make sure that you really want to do it and you don't make a spur of the moment decision and you don't do something you're going to regret later. We're going to break this video into several parts. We're going to talk about the outdoor stuff. We're going to talk about the indoor stuff. We're going to talk about design ideas that maybe don't stand the test of time and just don't make good financial sense long term. And then, of course, I'm going to share with you things you should really look at investing in and things that you're probably not going to regret, are going to have a good ROI, and are going to stand the test of time. Outdoor kitchens. This one really hits home for me. I recently did a big renovation in my backyard, actually new construction with an outdoor space. Living in Michigan, my wife and I have done 8 major renovations on houses in our 28 years of marriage. It's the first time we built new. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do outside. The idea of a kitchen and a sink and a faucet and all the stuff outside sounds great. But guess what? We're using that 3 or 4 months in Michigan. It just doesn't make sense. Too many people think they're going to use it. They don't use it. It doesn't get traction, especially in colder areas of the country that you only get a couple good months. Take something like a grill that's built in. That's great. That's going to stand the test of time. The sinks and the other appliances just don't seem to make sense. It end up being a big expense of something that never gets used. Along with that, swimming pools. Are you a swimmer? Do you want to use the pool? Or are you in a phase where the kids want it right now and they're going to use the pool and then it never gets used? Pools are expensive, not just for the construction, but for the maintenance, the upkeep, all the extra work that happens with the pool. Are you pool people? Or are you just excited about possibly having a pool? Because not only are they expensive to put in, they're expensive to manage and the maintenance, and they're also really expensive to take out later. Regarding pool cost, it's said that a pool in the right house, in the right area, and everything perfect might add 7% value to the home. I question that. Again, being from Michigan, there's a small season that it's used. Is the yard big enough? Is it this? Is it that? Perfect scenario, it may add 7% to your house. 7% typically doesn't even cover the cost of putting a pool in. Another one, large outdoor playground equipment. It doesn't season really well. Those young kids are going to love it for a year or two, and then that's it. I've lived this personally, having kids 22 and 23. We've had some playground equipment in the past. I bought my stuff used. I used it for a while. I gave it to someone else. Getting something that's really big and permanent and is going to be there probably isn't going to be a good investment, and it might even turn into a rusty eyesore in your backyard. The last item outdoors is landscaping, and I'm talking extreme, audacious, over-the-top landscaping, because landscaping can get very expensive very quick, and also It is different by each individual. Just because you love it doesn't mean someone else is going to love it. So be careful on the landscaping that you don't go landscaping gone wild and your landscaper's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're only going to get a return on investment of grass and a few trees. So carefully think landscaping. With a lawn and a couple trees, you mow the lawn, you trim the trees every few years, that's it. These really expensive landscaping packages are not only expensive up front, they're expensive to keep the maintenance up, to keep looking somewhat similar to what they did when the landscaper drove away and left you with that big bill. Wrapping up the outside, we haven't even got inside of the house. A couple of the big things to be careful for on the inside of the house are those beautiful, high-end, super expensive appliances that aren't going to stand the test of time a few years down the road when you choose to sell the house. If you are a gourmet chef, if cooking is your passion, it is your jam, and you love having that oven, that built-in coffee, frappuccino, latte, whatever it is, by all means do it, but don't fool yourself and think it's an investment. That high-end range that you paid ridiculous amount of money for, that coffee maker, that this, that, if it still works a few years from now, guess what? It's going to heat up a microwave oven or give me a black cup of coffee for a typical buyer. If you love it, do it, but don't look at it getting an ROI. Many appliances are built to break. Watched a documentary recently who talked about appliances are not built today like they used to be. My mother talks about a washing machine that she's had for 30 years. They just don't make appliances like they used to. So the longevity of these appliances probably aren't as long as they used to be. Don't get hooked in to the pitch of it unless you truly want it, you truly use it in something that brings you passion, because you're not going to be getting a good ROI on it. One of my favorites that I love to rail on are freestanding bathtubs. Oh my gosh, does anyone even use them, and how often do they use them? It's this focal point, and gal darn it, it's not very functional. You need a shower, you need something to clean yourself in compared to this big soaking bath sitting in the middle because we saw it on HGTV or something like that. We've got this giant piece sitting, it's, you know what it is? It's like that exercise equipment that you hang dirty clothes on, except it's a giant bathtub sitting in the middle of your space. Be cautious of not throwing money down the drain, literally in a big, useless bathtub in the middle of the room. I know this bathtub piece because in 29 years of being married, being in 8 houses, doing 7 major renovations before building our last house, I never did the big soaking tub. I never did it. Matter of fact, one house we had, having 2 boys that were 10 and 11 years old, a wife that doesn't take a bath, and I don't sit in baths. We had a house that was 3,000 square feet, was 4 bathrooms, and there wasn't even a tub. That was one extreme because we were going to live in that house forever. Well, we didn't live in it forever, obviously, but you know what? It didn't hurt my ROI. Having that big tub, there wasn't a ROI, return on investment. It's not going to give you value for your house long term. If you like to take baths, absolutely get the tub. You should have a tub in the house. You've got to wash little kids, and there's different stages of life, and I get it. But that big tub in the middle of the house that takes up all the space, is it functional? Is it going to stand the test of time? Because it's been kind of hot for a few years. I think that trend's going to move in and move out. Moving to room conversions. I think the big thing is look at the saleability of the house at some point down the road. Taking a 3-bedroom house down to a 2-bedroom house that has an awesome giant closet isn't going to bode well for many people looking for a home. 3 bedrooms is something that most people need. Maybe it's a room for a kid, maybe it's a guest room, maybe it's an office and a bedroom and a guest room, whatever it is. Carefully consider before you take things away like an extra bedroom. Could the bedroom be a little smaller? Could you get some more closet? Could you steal some space here and there? But be careful of full elimination. Another one goes with garages. It might be a great idea. Wouldn't it be great to have all this extra space? but don't get rid of the garage. Take a careful consideration before you eliminate something. A lot of these homes that have been built have stood the test of time, whether they're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. There's trends that come and go. What doesn't come and go are the basics. Having enough bedrooms, having a garage, having the space that people historically have used. Last thing, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm going to say take careful consideration. One of the houses that we've done in our life had 5 bedrooms. The 5-bedroom house just doesn't fit most of the demographics and what's happening in the country today with children and family size and everything else. When I took careful consideration of the neighborhood, of the demographics, of the square footage of the house, guess what? I eliminated one of the bedrooms. I got a bigger closet in our master bedroom, and I also added a second floor laundry, which my wife and I both love. The laundry is near the bedrooms instead of laundry coming up and down and in and out. Everything's on the same floor, which made a lot of sense. But it wasn't a willy-nilly decision going from 2 bedrooms to 1 or 3 to 2. We had 5, we went to 4, and it's not going to hurt the resale. If anything, it's adding value. Hey, we'll take a quick time out. I would love to see some comments. Maybe it's a house you bought and you saw a bad renovation. Maybe you want to share a picture of a bad renovation. Maybe you're the one who made a bad renovation or something that didn't stand the test of time. I love talking about pink tile from the 70s and pink bathtubs. Love to share and hear your comments below. So walking through a little indoor and outdoor, let's go to design trends. That's the word, trend. Beanie Babies didn't age well. Cabbage Patch dolls didn't age well for my older viewers. A lot of house trends will fall into those same categories. Be careful you don't get sucked in. Couple things I always consider when doing design, whether it's a rental property that I own that I'm redoing, whether it's a house I'm building for myself, whether it's one of the many renovations I've done in my lifetime, I want expensive items to stand the test of time. Let me give you an example of something expensive versus not expensive. Paint, cheap. Not too expensive to slap another coat of paint in the wall. If you love a particular color, go wild. It's easy to fix, not a big deal. You start talking about backsplashes and tile and trends in granite countertops, and this looks really cool and it's the hot new color right now. It is very expensive to change out solid surface countertop. It is very expensive and labor intensive to change backsplashes. Tile in bathroom is not something that's easy to change. If you've ever been out looking at some of the homes built in the 70s, you know what I'm talking about for tile. Somebody made a lot of money selling pink tile in a lot of homes in that era. It didn't stand the test of time. Another one that I see right now, which I guarantee you, I'm not a designer, but I guarantee you this will not play well out over time, is the cool open kitchen. Couple shelves, you got 3 plates over here, you've got your organic granola over here, maybe you've got a latte press or something over here, and it all looks great. Tell you what, you throw 2 kids, a busy schedule, groceries, a life, a dog, and everything else, that doesn't play well. There's a reason why there are cabinets with doors on it. There's a reason why bedrooms have doors and closets have doors. This open kitchen thing will not play out over time. It's going to be expensive to change. The kitchen specifically fits into a bigger trend or a bigger thing to think about in your mind, and it's functionality. It's not just functionality for you right now, it's functionality for the next potential user if you leave this house, or even functionality when you move to another phase in life or another mindset in life. I mean, look at how different our lives were a few years ago. We're all hunkered down at home during COVID compared to what it looked like before and after. Things change, life changed. Think about functionality in the big picture when you're making design decisions. We've talked about all these regrets and these possible mistakes to make. Let's talk about some rules or some guidelines or some suggestions that can help you make really good decisions when renovating a house. I would focus on repairs first. Again, with functionality, we got to make the house functional. It's got to work. What's broken? You can have the most beautiful looking entry area, foyer, but if the toilet doesn't flush, it's not working. So think about those items. We've got to get functional. We have to fix those items first. I think that's super important. This doesn't apply just for the home you're buying or living in. It can also apply to a rental property or second home, or maybe you're thinking about a vacation rental or something like that. We've got to get the functionality piece. When I walk through a house, what are my wants? What do I want to do? What would be great if I could do? But what do I have to do to make the house work? Plumbing, electric, functionality, toilets that flush, washers and dryers that work, all those items, appliances that work. That's the big thing there. A big suggestion I have for people is after you've got the maintenance done, live in the house a little. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year. It depends, but get in the house, see what the functionality is. Where do you drop your keys when you walk in the back door? Where do the groceries go? For whatever it is, and you're wondering where to put it, where's that space? Where's the coat closet? What happens in the summer? What happens in the winter? Where do the gloves go? Where do the hats go? Where do the dog bowl go? Where do the leashes go? The garage looked beautiful. Well, yeah, it looked beautiful when there's 2 cars parked in it. When you add a couple big wheels and a bicycle and a wagon and a lawnmower and everything else, it was a mess. I always joke that anytime I would show a home that I was selling, they would walk in and open the closet and say, wow, look at all the space in the closet. Well, of course there's a lot of space in the closet. I got it ready to sell. I got rid of all that junk I hadn't worn in 5 years and got it out and got my closet organized. Live in the house for a bit before making big decisions. You'll be happier in the long run. Again, we want to keep that in the back of our head, the functionality piece. I think living in the house and thinking about functionality, not just your functionality, but a normal person or a typical person or a typical family, whoever else can be there, what would the typical flow be for anyone in that? And consider that when you decide what renovations need to be made to fit a typical lifestyle and your lifestyle. What in life doesn't cost more money these days, right? Everything's more expensive. Here's a news flash for you. Construction and renovation has always been over budget before hyperinflation. It just happens. Without a doubt, the unexpected happens. Expect the unexpected. If you think it's going to cost $10,000, you better plan on 12. If you think it's going to cost $1,000, you better plan on 1,200. Have a buffer built in. It is great to hope for the best and do your best to make it happen, but it's important to plan for the worst because there's nothing worse than living in a construction zone. Trust me, I've been there in there with my wife and everything wasn't done like I promised. The money wasn't there. The product didn't come in. It was more expensive. It was back ordered. Whatever it is, hope for the best, plan for the worst, plan on everything being more expensive than you plan on. Good rule of thumb, even after getting all the numbers, even after careful consideration, even after the cocktail napkin or the Excel spreadsheet, whatever that number is, add 20% on it. Another suggestion is focus on high traffic areas. That little corner of the house that no one ever uses, that sits in the back. Why are we going to spend time and a lot of effort there compared to the space that everyone uses? The kitchens, the mudroom, the bathrooms, the laundry room. Think about if you got a family and 3, 4, 5 people in a house, think about how much that laundry room is being used. Look at the high traffic areas and look at focusing on those areas will give you your best return on investment. Covering a lot, inside, outside, design ideas, where to do things, all that. Couple things to consider as we wrap up is who to do it. Is it you? Are you going to do the work?
You talking to me? You talking to me?
I can tell you from experience, I learned how to do wood floors 20 years ago for the first time. And YouTube wasn't a thing 20 years ago. And guess how I learned to do wood floors? I went to the rental place and rented the wood floor machine. I bought the sandpaper and the grit paper and the high grit and the low grit and the this and the that, rented the machine and the polyurethane, and the guy behind the counter gave me my pointers on what to do and what not to do and how to do it. And guess what? It worked out pretty darn well, and I've gotten pretty good at that. YouTube these days, there's a lot out there you can look up, and you can learn how to do a lot of these things yourself. I think there's some things you do yourself. I think there's some things you want to hire out. If you hire out and you're looking at contractors, I think it's so important to vet your contractor. I've heard more contractor horror stories in my lifetime than I care to remember. There are good contractors and bad contractors. Like everything out there, vet your contractor. Make sure he's reputable. Be cautious about the money you give in advance for work you do. I'm cautious sometimes in just looking at Google reviews or different internet reviews about particular contractors. I had a contractor experience recently, which was great. Gentleman I talked to runs a small business, does a great job. He's 60 years old, operator, does very good work. He has a few people that work for him. His back office, not so good. His follow through, not so good. His use of a laptop and responding to an email, not so good. His work was excellent. After I met him and I vetted him and I chose to work with him, I was very happy with the experience. So I went on Yelp and I gave him a 5-star review to offset the one other review which he had was a 1-star, which said his communication was poor. He didn't email me back on time. He didn't do this. Guess what my response was? Professional, owner-operator, did a great job, said what he was going to do and did what he said he was going to do. Very happy, 5 stars, highly review, highly like. So be cautious about just that. Ask a friend, ask a family member, ask someone who's used a contractor. I will tell you, in building a home and watching others build a home, very few people like their builder at the end of the construction project. It is similar with renovations. Oh my gosh, I found the greatest contractor. He's awesome. That's what it was day one. 6 months later, he didn't get it done. We had overruns. We were late. The material wasn't in. So finding someone that's had a good experience with the particular contractor is more valuable than anything else. The last thing with that and working with contractors and getting referrals and everything else is trust your gut. It is hardwired in us to trust our gut. I think too often we turn that off. When that spidey senses go off and say, just had a bad feeling about this guy. And then later you're like, God darn it, why didn't I listen to myself? That is a sixth sense that is real. Trust your gut. Trust but verify. Get the name of someone, talk to them, look at them. Don't discount them just because they had one-star review. Trust your gut, meet people, ask friends. All these things are going to help you with the right renovations for the right house so you get a great long-term product, something you love, something that's saleable, and creates a great experience of homeownership. Appreciate watching the whole video. Hopefully you've got some good content out of it. We talk about good, the bad, the ugly, good investments, good experiences, bad experience. I hope you got some real value out of this. I think there's a piece to loving where you live, but also always thinking that if I sell this, am I going to be able to sell it? Is it marketable to the next person? Is it a good investment? The rest of the story I said in the video earlier, in 29 years of marriage, 8 homes. I will share something else with you. Every single home I was sure I was going to live in the rest of my life. And that includes my first house at 22 years old with 2 buddies from high school, and they're each renting a room. It was nirvana. Everything I could ever want. Couple bros hanging out, covering 2/3 of the mortgage payment. Why would I ever want anything else? It's been the exact same thing every single time. I was smart enough to make investments that stood the test of time, and I was able to sell a home quickly at top dollar. Stay focused on these things. I hope it was helpful. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Please follow me. Look forward to seeing you again in the future.